Hi, John here from the virtual training team. Thanks for joining us. Today, 3 tips, stakeholder management, something really important. We work a lot on stakeholder management for non-project managers. And so 3 tips, 3 things for me. I've been working with the team recently and developing some thinking around the area of stakeholder management for non-project managers and project managers, of course. Stakeholder management, 3 things, 3 key tips. Number 1, about matrixing out all of your stakeholders in terms of power and interest. So we would always use Mendelow's matrix, Orby Mendelow, out of the University of Ohio, and his matrix. And then secondly, about building trust. And thirdly, about building in delighters along with the must-haves that often don't get discussed in terms of client customer satisfaction. So 3 things: Mendelow's matrix, about power versus interest, about splitting out all of the interested parties and the powerful parties in and around a project across a 4-box grid based on those 2 factors, those 2 axes, power and interest, and then really focusing into the top right-hand corner where your ultimate stakeholder will often sit, or mostly sit, or always sit, in terms of both power and interest, and how you manage the relationships you have with the other 3 squares or the other 3 boxes. So search online about Mendelow's matrix and use it as a good tool for sorting out the beginning of your communications for your projects ongoing, to manage your stakeholders. And then secondly, about building trust. We tend to use the work of Meister, Green and Galford, the trusted equation, the trusted advisor, in terms of building trust. So about creating credibility, about being reliable, about your level of intimacy or closeness with the person appropriately that you want to build trust with, all divided into by the idea of self-orientation. In other words, if you have self-orientation high, I just want to get across the line for me, the other person might not trust you as much. However, if you want to see the other person get across the line as much as you want, you have a lower level of self-orientation, and therefore actually you might produce far higher trust in the others. So always seek to have as much interest in them getting across the line as you getting across the line in any projects. Finally, there's a guy called Noriaki Kano, and he's he's emeritus professor of Tokyo University. And he worked on customer satisfaction with some of the largest Japanese companies. And he sort of challenges the norm of thinking around regular customer satisfaction. And he says that there are 2 lines of customer satisfaction. There's the obvious ones: the more you give people, the more they'll be satisfied. That's fine. And he says, yeah, that's one thing, but actually, is that the whole? He says, often there's an awful lot of stuff that's unsaid that people expect, but you must make it explicit. So make the implicit explicit. So if you're buying a car, for instance, and the car salesman says, yeah, you can have this colour of a vehicle, this size of engine, but when you go to collect the vehicle, it hasn't got door handles. And you say, well, it hasn't got door handles. And the salesman says to you, well, you didn't ask for door handles, we didn't discuss door handles. Then you'd be very disappointed. So it's just that checklist of maybe the obvious, but the implicit, and just making it explicit so we don't miss anything, we don't drop the ball for our customer, our stakeholder in terms of projects. And finally, there's a delighter line. He says sometimes you can find these small, simple, maybe cheap sometimes, things that will really delight the customer that they weren't expecting. And you'll, I'm sure, find your examples of how you can do that. So 3 things for stakeholder management for today, just for thinking for going forwards. That is Mendelow's matrix, power and interest, about building trust with our stakeholder, and then about making sure we get the implicit covered off so there's no drop balls. Finally, can you find that small thing that delights your stakeholder? Good luck with project management and stakeholders, and I'll speak to you soon.